a visceral sense in my body where, you know, there's so much whiteness around that question of like, but how do I do this thing? How do I stand up for racism, or anti-racism? Like, but then there's just like this felt body sense of like, oh, now is the time that I say something. I'm going to say something now. But it takes this, for me, that's all somatic. That's all in the body that happens.
I'm curious for you, and I know we have to wrap up, but I'm curious for you. I'm thinking about, as you're saying this, I can almost feel in my body what it feels like right before that happens. And I know, oh, this is a time for me as a white cis woman to say something. I'm curious for you, Dylan, like what are some of the signs for you in your body? And I know it's different examples, but that give you that insight of like, oh, okay, this thing is happening and I'm going to do something.
Oh, I so want to hear what yours is too. I like, even as I'm talking, I can feel it, right? Because it's so somatic. Like I'm just talking about, I'm like, ugh, like you said. It feels like a ball of like light or fire in my chest that's like expansive. Like it's not tight. Usually when the initial like instance of, I like see the initial instance of racism, it can feel like tightness in my belly and chest, like, and it can feel like, oh, like, and but then like right after that, it's almost like it's expansive. Yeah, I think that's all I can. Yeah, and then it's like, okay, now I'm gonna say something.
Yeah, that's really cool. So it starts kind of tight and then like it's expansive.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine is definitely in my chest. Yeah, I don't feel a sense of tightness. It's hard to describe. I think the biggest thing for me that comes up is I have like my heartbeat is very, very in my awareness. I think my heart rate goes up, but not from like I'm just pissed. It's more like, oh, I have to, like, my body is like telling me like this is the time where in a mixed space, this is the most important thing you can do is speak up, because like I kind of go through my checklist, not always in a cerebral way, but like, oh, actually right now is the most important thing. It's my turn as a cis white woman in this example. And like my heart's just like, it's now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like it feels like it almost is like lifting until and it has to like, it's like everything just kind of, oh, you have to. And if I don't do this, like, oh, it would be like, you're talking about, the cost would be really high in my body, much less like intellectually figuring it out. So.
Right. Yeah. And I'm thinking about like the point where it became possible for me to do that work. There was like, I had to do a lot of work in my body and cerebrally around this idea of like centering the most impacted in the room. Because I think I was trained always to center white people. Like I was trained always to like look out for the other white people in the room, and like cerebrally I could be like, yeah, of course, like I love this black man, this brown man in the room just as much as I love all the white people in the room. But like somatically that wasn't true. That's not what I was trained to think. I wasn't trained to value black and brown people as much as white people. And so, yeah, this idea of like decentering, I had to do a lot of work on like somatically looking out for the people of color in a room in a white dominant space, so that I was oriented towards their impact, the impact on them in the room, in order to like feel those things. Because when I'm just oriented towards the white person, especially if it's like the white person talking or the white person with power, like I instead like get more like, oh, I want to please this person, like type of feelings. So it took a lot of retraining of being like, who am I actually committed to being in relationship with in the room first and foremost? Whose liberation am I caring about the most in the room in this moment? Whose comfort am I caring about the most? And if I'm centering people of color, that somatic response happens. If I'm centering a white person, it wouldn't. It doesn't.
Right. Right. Might happen at a different time, right? At like a that would cause more harm, which is
Yeah.
often what happens. And um, yeah, oh my gosh, there's so many ways. I have so much more to talk about. But I think what I in closing, yeah, I can't wait to hear from more people kind of what their visceral experience is so far in scenarios like this. And
Right.
I'm curious, like how many folks feel it here, because we're both of us are talking about like kind of in the chest.
Yeah.
And I think based on my experience with other white folks, I think a lot of us don't often feel yet. Like a lot of people don't get the feeling, don't have that. It's more just like up here. And so I'm really looking forward to doing more work around embodiment and getting into the feelings and expressing and sharing and building relationship with everyone so that we can move forward from a place that's more resilient, more connected, more grounded. Um, yeah. So I was so grateful for you and all of the work you're doing around trauma and embodiment and how just beautifully and impactful that is in this work. So appreciate
Mm. That's so sweet.
it.
Thanks, Jenny.
Yeah.
Thanks for being in conversation about this. Like per usual, it was rich.
Yes. I know. I can't wait to invite more folks in. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, hearing that what you just said, like, oh, what are other white folks feeling around this? Like what else? Yeah, I'm really curious what people's responses are.